Hello, water managers and SWMS users. I'm Russell Errett with the Water Management Systems Division of the Hydrologic Engineering Center, and I'll be covering SWMS real-time modeling. This is the third part in a multi-part video series for this presentation, so if you want to see the first two parts, check them out in the playlist. We're covering the basics for making new cavity watersheds for running in real-time forecast simulations. We've gone through a quick crash course on how to set up a cavity for use in real-time modeling. We've also covered creating a forecast, setting time windows and forecast times, and we've gone through the data status summary report. And so now we're going to go through editing and running models and viewing results within this presentation. And then we'll also look at time series icons and model results and saving models and results farther down the road. So let's talk about computing the models themselves. So now that we've created a forecast, or we've developed the model runs, we've created the forecast, let's talk about how we compute the models. And so computing the models, there's really three main ways you can compute the models from within the modeling tab. So you can highlight the forecast run itself. So in this example in the modeling tree, if we highlight the FDR run and you right click, we can go to compute. That's one way of computing it. We can also go to the Actions tab down at the bottom down here, and you'll notice that there's a compute button for the actual forecast run when it's highlighted. We could also click on each of the individual models themselves and highlight those and right-click and compute the individual models. And then in the Action tabs, there's also a compute option for each of those model alternatives as well. Something to think about is if I go to click on, say, ResSim and say right-click and compute, if MetView and HMS have not been computed, the cavity is smart enough to say, oh, I need to compute these two, and it will compute starting from MetView and HMS to ResSim. It won't just fire off ResSim without that input, unless you've specifically told them to skip, which is the kind of advanced feature which we can talk about later. But all those can be computed by right-clicking and then from the Actions tab. The other place to compute your model runs from or your forecast runs from is if you go to the forecast menu, and if you go to Compute Manager, a Compute Manager comes up here, and you can see all the runs that are in here. There's actually an FDR one, there's a Mapping 2D, and a Mapping 2D with QPF. You can check one or all of these, or multiples of these, and you can force recompute, so it's going to recompute all these models. You can close the progress windows when they're done. And you can say select all, deselect all, and then when you push compute, what it's going to do, it's not running these at the same time, it's doing them one at a time. So what it's going to do is going to run the FDR compute first. When it's finished, it will kick off the next compute, which is the Mapping 2D, and it'll kick off the next one once it's done, this Mapping 2D with QPF. So unfortunately, it's not running them simultaneously, but it's running them in sequence. So that can be efficient for you for a couple of different things. One, if you have a couple of models that take a long time to run, you might kick them off and let them run in the background and let them kick off when the next one upstream is done. That way you're not constantly monitoring or waiting for the kickoff the next one. Or maybe you're just doing the hydrology and you want to do a without QPF run and the QPF run, you want them both run in sequence and they don't take very long. You might just get them both kicked off so you can see the results. So pretty powerful menu button. So definitely look to leverage that for different applications. But there's different ways of doing those computes. So those are the primary ways of computing your model runs. And so when they're kicked off, the things you'll notice is that you'll see in the progress bar, it'll let you know which model is being computed. So this screen grab is a little out of date, but we have computing MFP. It has finished computing MFP, so this will be MetView now. And then we have HMS, so it's kicking off HMS, and it gives you a progress bar of where it's at on its compute. So right now it's doing its HMS, it's 89% through HMS, and then overall it's about halfway through all of the forecast run alternatives. So there could be a multiple model sequences in here, and it's about halfway through those. So once HMS is done, there could be ResSim, and then it's got a RAS run. Again, unfortunately, this progress bar is not by time, it's by component or model piece that it's trying to go through. So it's telling you how far it is through all of the model components or the model runs themselves in the forecast run alternative. So this progress bar will let you know, and there's a lot of messages in here that'll give you some information. And if there's any errors, some of them could be warning messages, and some of them could be actual errors where the model blew up. So definitely check out this compute progress window. So once you've computed it, let's talk about how you view the results. So viewing results, there's, again, multiple different ways of viewing results. The forecast alternative modeling tree, you can expand the model itself. So for example, in here we are looking at ResSim. When we expand it, you can see all of the junctions that are in there. Here is the reservoir elements, and then there's routing reaches. So if I wanted to look at, say, Mark Twain Lake, I could right click on that and it would pull up a plot of, or an editor for the results in here. So if we right click on this, we can view the results that way. Down here at the bottom, there's a reports tab. And so there's a lot of reports down here that you can look at for associated to the ResSim model. So when ResSim is highlighted, there's these options down here to look at results. So again, the modeling schematic we can look at through there. And then opening up the specific model itself. So if we wanted to crack open the model itself, so say ResSim, we can crack it open and look at ResSim in its standalone, its native environment. So if you're familiar with ResSim and you want to look at it in ResSim itself, that's a great place to go to it. If you're an HMS modeler and you want to see HMS results from HMS in its native environment, all you have to do is just go up here and click on a shortcut and it will open up the HMS results from its HMS native environment. So definitely view them the way you want to. And then also, as I was saying, the schematic, if you right click on the reach itself, so if you know what the reach looks like for ResSim, you can right click, you can say reservoir, and then there's a plot. So there's multiple different ways to get to those results. Choose your poison, whichever is the most efficient for you to do. The other thing to do is you can always crack open SWMS view. So if you click open SWMS view, by default it's going to take you to the forecast.dss file, and you can filter by F part. So the F part here for the ResSim run will be 00H0Z0. So that's the HMS F part you're looking for, and you can view all the results from in there. Additionally, if you know all of that within SWMS view, you can start creating plot scripts, and so you know the path names that need to go into it. So there are several different ways of viewing the results. So definitely play with all of those and figure out which one's the most efficient for you. And they can be different for each model. I will personally tell you, a lot of times I like to view some results when I'm digging into the weeds and trying to do calibrations. I like to view HMS from the HMS model itself. I like to view ResSim results from the CAVI itself, and then when I'm looking at RAS, I crack open RAS as standalone and I only look at it from there. I never look at it from the CAVI window. So it's really a preference and it's really what you're familiar with. So, you know, choose what is most efficient for you. Those options are available because they're so varied on where people are comfortable with. So editing model parameters, again, the same way. If you need to edit things, like if you need to edit routing reach parameters, the reservoir components, anything that's associated with model, there's multiple ways of getting to those. So again, the same way in the modeling tree, if you expand it, so if we're at Mark Twain, when you right click, you can see that there's a plot function that we were looking at in the previous slide. There's also an edit. You can go to edit and it will take you to the reservoir editor. This is where you can edit these edit the rules or some of the physical parameters that are in here. So that's how you can get to an editor here. Again, you can also access that by going to the model itself. So you can crack open ResSim itself in its native environment and go to the editors from there. Same thing with HMS. You can also access, if you right click on any of the elements that are in the modeling schematic here, you can go to, so let's say there's a source, I can go to edit, and then I can edit basically the parameters in that component. Same way you could, if you were doing it in standalone HMS, you can get it from the map schematic here as well. If you have any questions about our software, need some help, or are looking for additional training, check out these links. They can also be found in the descriptions down below. Thanks for your time.